you've got to come into alignment in your mind that you are awesome. How do you do that? There's a number of different ways that you can take, okay? I'm going to give you a couple different ones. One of them is what's called presence work. You read The Power of Now by Eckhart Tolle, you learn what the now is, and then you live it. I read the Power of Now like 100 times, A New Earth is sequel, which I like even better. I read that like 100 times. I meditate. I learn how to get into the present moment. Doing meditation 20 minutes a day, what basically happens is it trains your brain to be completely still. That ability to be still mentally makes it where you're not pinging off of other people trying to get their validation. It gets you accustomed to it. What it also does is it makes you grounded. It gets you grounded into your own energy so that you feel good without needing external validation. Because what happens is we don't feel good in our own body because we don't know how to get present to the moment, and then we start looking to others or things outside of ourselves to feel good. So one of them is presence work. Another one of them is trauma release. A lot of the time, no matter what you do to get present, you struggle with it, you can't release trauma, or sorry, you're carrying too much negativity, and you don't know how to release trauma. You can release trauma, actually. So what you have to do is you have to release that trauma, because otherwise what happens is getting present to the moment, it's like you're kind of trying to float above the trauma. Do you guys ever feel that way? Maybe you're floating above the trauma?
I used to, yeah.
Okay, so does anybody here feel that way, that you're floating above the trauma?
Yeah.
Okay, right, so you're like, I gotta stay present, I gotta stay present. As soon as you're not present, you're back in the pits of hell. I used to feel that way. When I first found the Power of Now, I could get present, which was a great relief. But then I felt like as soon as I didn't stay in a meditative state, I'd feel like I was in hell. So that's where trauma release came in. Now, another way is also self-improvement. When you're living your own values and you become the version of yourself that you want to be, you'll be confident. But here's the problem with it, okay? I like self-improvement for confidence. It's massive. The problem is you'll keep pushing the goalposts further away. You'll tell yourself, when I'm this fit, I'll be confident. Then you don't feel confident and you push the goalposts further. Well, when I'm this fit, I'll feel confidence, and then you push the goalposts further. When I make this much money, I'll feel confident. You'll push the goalposts further. When I have this house, I'll feel confident. But you don't. You're not going to. And then you'll push the goalposts further. The reason why is because with self-improvement, you are forging synaptic pathways in your brain. You are forging synaptic pathways in your brain that says, I'll be happy when. Say that bad thing with me. Say, I'll be happy when, right? Or I'll be confident when. Instead of the opposite of this, which is instead of self-improvement, another one is self-acceptance, which is the opposite of self-improvement. Being attractive, in my mind, yes, it's about self-improvement, but I think it's equally, if not more so perhaps, actually about self-acceptance, okay, self-love. So it's learning to accept yourself. That is a different synaptic pathway. That's a synaptic pathway that gives you love to yourself. You're giving yourself permission to love yourself.
The thing is, this begs the question, though, because a lot of people say, if I'm trying to improve myself, if I'm actively attempting to improve myself, how can I accept myself right now, right? So, I mean, one way to think of this is like, is a 5-year-old child somehow imperfect because he doesn't have the capabilities of a 25-year-old, right? No, he does not. What's the best way to ensure that that 5-year-old becomes a wholly, fully realized 25-year-old? By accepting him as he is in that present moment, right? Not expecting more. So again, remember, you're not a product, you're a process. And your improvement is going to proceed, I suppose, as a direct function of your acceptance of that fact, of yourself as a process, right? And not as some end product.
I am awesome on my journey to becoming even more awesome. Say that.
I'm awesome on my journey to becoming even more awesome.
Because it doesn't end. That I'll be confident when, I'll be happy when nonsense, it doesn't end.
Have you ever seen a photograph of yourself from like 10 years ago, like wearing some weird outfit, and you're like, what was I thinking? But at the time, you thought it looked awesome. Like you're looking at it in the mirror like, this is awesome. And you stepped out of the house, and now you look at it, you're like, what in God's name, right?
This point is so legit. Let it sink in what he's saying. This is such an important point, what he just said to you.
And the funny thing going forward too, literally 10 years from now, you might have stepped out of the house today, you're like, wow, this is awesome. But 10 years from now, you're like, what? The late 2019, like that was a weird time for all of us, right? But you evolve.
You felt so good in the moment, and because you felt good and accepted yourself because you were meeting your criteria, people felt attracted to you. You radiated that attractive energy. You ever had it where you got a fresh haircut and everybody says, hey, you got a haircut, or I like that shirt when you got a new shirt? And then you could wear that same shirt the second time, and it looks no different than the first time, or so marginally different, but nobody keeps saying nice shirt. It's almost like there's this weird psychic energy between people where you got that new shirt. I'm curious if that's just me, actually. Let me ask you this. Yeah. Have you all ever had this experience where you had a new shirt and people complimented you on it at first, and then the next time that you wore it, nobody complimented you? Who here has had that experience? Weird, right? Weird, right? How about you got a new haircut and people well, maybe that one doesn't count because they know you, so they know you got a haircut. But the point is, I still think it applies, okay? You see where I'm getting at here? So what I'm saying is it's that you kind of click in. That feeling of getting a brand new haircut and a new shirt, it just clicks in. You feel so good. But here's what's happening. So let's go a little deeper, because this is pretty serious stuff. Consumer culture has its hooks in you. What's happened is that beautiful self-love that if you were a prehistoric person way back in the day, running around in nature, that you might feel because you're connected to God and nature, the way that you might have felt back then, consumer culture and marketing has separated you from that. They've gone, they've put it over here, and then you have to pay them to get back your birthright. And it's sick.
Or even worse, they've commodified that feeling.
You've got to learn how to tap into that great feeling about yourself without external feedback. And this becomes an upward spiral because as more people like you anyway, it gets easier because it gets reinforced. And unfortunately, what's happening to a lot of you is you're getting a negative cycle reinforced where people don't like you. And then you think, well, how can I live up to somebody else's standards? I don't accept myself. Maybe what I should do is try to figure out what I'm doing wrong by looking what other people are doing and maybe mimicking or copying them. How do I know this? When I would teach trainings, say in Hollywood, a lot of time people would be dressed, say, in black. And so a new student would come and they'd say, you know what I learned about Hollywood? You got to wear black. And I'm like, first of all, no, you don't. It's fine to wear black. I do sometimes, but you don't. But number two, it's a bad sign because what they're doing is they're pinging off the environment, figuring out how they're not good enough. Go wear the black clothes, man. Hey, go wear the black clothes. Not going to matter. Truly doesn't matter. You know what does matter? When you're that person who's with a group of your friends, laughing, having fun, putting out energy, and everybody wants to be in your group. Then the way that plays out is then you start pinging around the venue, having fun with everybody, and now you're introducing people to each other, and you are the social hub. Then, after party, back here, and people are fighting and clawing and clamoring to go. But you've got to get serious about this. Don't be lazy on it. You've got to take it serious. What most of you are doing, you're not taking it serious. You're going out, you're like, you know you shouldn't be pinging. You know that you should just accept yourself, but then you don't. You forget. And I know this because whenever I teach people how to socialize and I take them out into bar club, they'll go to an interaction, I'll say, how'd that go? And they always talk about how the other person reacted to them. You want to know what will usually happen in most cases if you ask me how a social interaction went, even if it went poorly? It's all my movie. I said this, it was hilarious, this is what was funny about it. It's oriented in my movie.
Many people can't even remember what they said. Like if I'm asking, so what did you do in that interaction that you felt contributed to it working out the way you wanted? Well, they just liked me. Like you said, they'll attribute it to some external factor. Or if queried as to what they specifically did, they're like, I don't remember. Because that's not even relevant to them, what they're doing. Yeah.
They're not their own hero.
I'm like, well, I said this hilarious thing, and then I did this awesome thing, and I'll start literally laughing, remembering it.
Because he's the hero.
In fact, even now, I'm just like, I'm awesome. Like literally right now, I'm remembering just not even specific things I said, but like how I act when I'm interacting. I'm like, yes, I am awesome.
And meditation helps with this?
How many people in here meditate? Now, how many people in here, keep your hands up if you meditate enough, as much as you probably should? And then like all the hands always go down, right? And why is that? Why do you think that is? Because it's like the gym in many cases. Because you get to a point where you're like, okay, I'm good. Okay, I think I'm pretty good. I understand this centeredness thing, this stillness thing,
It can be a chore.
the breathing. But then you're like, I'm good. And then you stop and you kind of start to slide sideways. It can be a chore, yeah.
The challenge with being grounded as well is that it is such an attractive quality. And you'll see people who are grounded and you'll admire them. You'll feel it from them. They'll look at you, they have a steady gaze, but it's not this psycho steady gaze of like, they're trying to show you that they can do it. It's really just this effortless steady gaze.
Yeah, because if they're trying, it's extremely unnerving, actually. It has the opposite effect.
The uncanny valley. You want to explain the uncanny valley? Actually, it's awesome.
Are you guys familiar with that? This idea of the uncanny valley? No. So uncanny valley is a concept that initially came about in animation. And it's basically the idea is that when an object begins to approach human representation, like the representation of a human figure, it becomes increasingly familiar and comforting until it reaches a certain threshold where it's almost identical. So for example, if, in fact, I believe I even have I explained this the other day, so I have a representation of it here. So it's like, say here you have an industrial robot on an assembly line, right? It's like an arm that goes bzz, bzz. That is, so here we have level of comfort, familiarity. That's zero. Zero familiarity, zero comfort. Here you got like, a teddy bear. Here you have like a doll, a human-looking doll. Here you have a mannequin. Then here, let's say you have a zombie, if that existed, right? It looks or an unnervingly, almost like accurate android. You might have seen some of these, these robots from Japan that are kind of like, hello, my name is Sheila, and it almost looks human, but you can tell it's clearly not. Then you have this extreme dip of discomfort and revulsion. It looks like a person, but it's not a person. So it's extremely uncomfortable. And then when you get identical or an actual person, then the comfort level goes up, right? So here, what we're talking about here, when you have this sort of unnerving glare, this is somebody who is attempting to approximate the behaviors of somebody who has this centeredness, who has this groundedness, but they can tell it's not exactly there. So people would interact with you and they'd be like, these are the behaviors and speech of a person who's actually attractive, but he's not actually attractive.
Which makes you feel sick, by the way. Do you guys ever watch the animated movie Beowulf and you felt sick because it's so close to being human? It should be awesome, right? Shouldn't it be amazing? Or did you ever, one of my favorite movies is Alita Battle Angel, but it's really weird. And it wasn't super popular for that reason. That's the uncanny valley. Most people are driven by the pain-pleasure principle. And what happens is they just want to feel pleasure and no pain. So maybe they see that little Instagram thing there, and they're like, to ask the question would be kind of annoying. It's not the path of least resistance. And so they want to take that path of least resistance. I understand that the path of least resistance is the path to hell. In some cases, it can be good, like getting a mentor, getting help, getting training, great. But in many cases, it is a bad path. And so what happens, let's come back to that then, what I was saying about not pinging off your environment, not only is that a very attractive trait, it's also a high status trait, but it also makes you someone you can trust. I don't trust nice people at all. Because to me, that same nice person is the person that comes to my party and then pees on the floor. Because everybody else is doing it. It happens all the time, okay? People in groups, people individually quite smart. In groups, quite dumb. It's that herd mentality, right? So you get them in a party, and one person starts pissing on the floor, and everybody else is just like, oh, that's what we're doing. Everybody starts peeing. It's crazy.
I actually have an extreme distrust of nice people. It's like, what is this? What's going on?
It's a fake front. It's a socially adaptive strategy. Like, well, just, hi, not doing anything bad. So because they're doing that, they're taking the path of least resistance. When some psycho starts telling them to do something bad, all that the psycho has to do is make that the path of least resistance, and then they follow it. So part of getting our society to be safe and to prevent atrocities is we have to train people not to be like sheep, to think for themselves. And when they see something bad happening, stand up. Stand up. And not just let that happen. But unfortunately, they say hard times make strong people make easy times makes weak people make bad times. You know, that's the gist of it. I didn't get quite the quote, right? So we're definitely in a cycle right now where we're getting some pretty easy times, and people are trained to follow the path of least resistance. And there's not a lot of people that will stand up. There's actually a lot of bad things happening in society right now that we all know are bad, but people aren't standing up. And so part of being that leader and not socially pinging means thinking for yourself and seeing the world through your own eyes. It makes you attractive, but it also makes you a leader. You're not just a sheep getting spoon-fed easy truths. People resonate with easy truths. They feel it in their soul. That's easy. I can understand it. Sometimes the truth is complex. Sometimes the truth is multifaceted. You know what's so great about the show Game of Thrones? Like, it wasn't just a good guy and a bad guy. A character like Jaime Lannister, maybe he's the bad guy. Then he becomes the good guy. Then he's the bad guy. Then he's the good guy. Shows some strength. Maybe ends kind of weak. Caves to his addiction and codependence. So, you know, you see a character arc. That's a lot more real than most TV shows with just a good guy and a bad guy. My kids are always saying, oh, is that guy good? Is that guy bad? Look at the Smurfs. These were the Smurfs. They lived in a forest. It literally says this in the intro because my kids like the Smurfs. These are the blue Smurfs. They were good. This is Gargamel. He was bad. It says that right in the intro. So they think in simplistic terms. I don't view a bad person as all bad. Sometimes I'll have a public falling out with somebody, and they're talking a bunch of crap, and people come up to me, they're like, do you hate that guy? I'm like, no, I don't, actually. And you know why I don't? Because I don't think they're all bad. I think we all have a mix of bad and good in us. And I can see, like, you know what they say, borderline personality disorder. There's this thing called splitting. Do you guys know what splitting is?
No.
Splitting is this idea that somebody with a personality disorder, they'll tend to view you in a godlike way, or they view you as the devil. Okay, it's called splitting. It's this, so if you're dating someone with borderline personality disorder, they either love you like you're some kind of god, but then if they get mad at you, they forget about all your good qualities and then they hate you. Okay, it's called splitting.
There's a book on this. It's called I Hate You, Don't Leave Me, which kind of summarizes the whole borderline.
Or Stop Walking on Eggshells. If you ever dated someone that seems very erratic, look that up. It can be a literal lifesaver. And really thinking in a nuanced way, we realize that there's things about me, if you guys had a movie in my life, there'd be things about me that you'd be really disappointed. You'd be like, man, I watched that guy's videos, I watched Jeff's videos, they seem pretty cool. I'm disappointed. Or there'd be things that would actually exceed your expectations in a great way. And it'd be a mix of things, right? So nobody's all good or all bad. If I had to guess, okay, speculative, I have no answer to this any more than you do, so everyone can make their guess. We could do like a whole seminar, just everyone's best guess. If people were to ask me where we are and I had to guess, because I don't know, I would say we're probably in some kind of purgatory realm between like some kind of like upper levels and lower levels. I don't think it's like heaven or hell. I think there's like levels, okay? I'm just guessing, guys. So other stuff I said, that's tested. This is just me talking a bunch of crap, like I took mushrooms or something. Yeah, so basically, I think we're in some kind of purgatory realm. And I think that people make a decision to move down or to move up. And I could talk for hours about why I think this, but the basic summary of why I'm just
Did you ever read that book, C.S. Lewis, The Great Divorce?
One of my favorite books, actually. Yeah. And the whole idea of the Great Divorce is that hell, it seems so big, but it's actually truly small. But you need perspective from it to see how small it is. Beautiful book, Great Divorce by C.S. Lewis.
And people choose to live there. So it's a religious allegory, but basically you choose to be in hell. You could go to heaven at any time. That's the thing. And people visit there and they're like, this is awful. I hate it. And they'll find ways to convince themselves to go back to hell, right?
Yeah, very powerful book. Read that for sure.
Very short book too.
Beautiful. And what I believe is that as people, we're all sitting here and we're learning about who we are and we're making decisions. And many of those decisions are high quality decisions and many of those decisions are low quality decisions. And I make mistakes myself. We all do, right? We all do. So I feel like we're all in process. One of the things I love about a beautiful self-development seminar is that everybody there recognizes that they're in process and they're looking to improve themselves and get better. They're looking for tools, mentors, ideas, sharing energy, meeting like-minded people, networking, and to get better. I love living my life doing this. It's an amazing lifestyle, by the way. It's totally amazing. And so I love people, but let me say this. I love people with all my heart, even the worst people. But I can see our flaws a mile away. I could show you the most I mean, human beings, we're the most ingenious, powerful, courageous. The thing I love about humans the most, out of anything about humans, here's what I love the most. I love that we can be faced with a reality where you could make an argument that there's no point to life at all. Right. You do all this stuff, you're gonna die, probably wouldn't even remember it, would have no meaning, someday the sun's gonna blow up, and human beings just stick up their middle fingers and say, F you, I'm gonna make a meaning out of this anyway. This little creepy little evolved monkey sitting on this rotating rock, and you just sit there pointing at the sky, no, I will make a meaning of this, right? It's like you're a miniature God making the meaning, right? We live in a world without a clear meaning. And many of us will pay money to others to tell us that meaning because it's so painful and it weighs on us so severely, not knowing what that meaning is. And we can make our own meaning. It's part of existentialist philosophy. You can read about that, Jean-Paul Sartre, all these guys, Camus. And so I love that about human beings. And I love that we stick our middle fingers up and try to make something of our lives. And I can see, though, that greatness in us, that greatness that exists in everybody. But I can also see the rationalizations, the justifications, the selfishness, the incongruency, inconsistency, the hypocrisy, the taking the path of least resistance that we all have, and to whatever degree we choose to move down that path. But I feel that through every step, there's an education. And even when we make bad decisions, we are in process and we are being educated. And I believe that the pain that we get in making those low quality decisions is cleansing to the soul. It is a fire to the soul. And that's why when I can see that somebody is not moving up or making high quality decisions, I still love them so much. I love them so much because I understand that they're in process, even when they have inflicted pain on me. And many people who have done very nasty things to me, I will call them on the phone in low moments and help them. One of the great ways that I've learned to heal wounds of people that have harmed you is to help the very person that victimized you. Somebody who's been so nasty and ugly to you and helping them. Or another one, which we do here, is also helping people who have been through the pain that you have been through yourself. You find your gold in your greatest wound. It creates an incredible passion and conviction for what it is that you would have to share. So helping someone that victimized you or helping someone who has been victimized by the same thing that victimized you, the same circumstances or life situations or just problems that can happen is a beautiful, beautiful experience. And that pain that you go through, it trains you because there's universal principles of life. We'll talk about that this weekend. But in these universal principles, what we see is that when we move with them and we align to them, we move up. And when we deny them, we move down. And in denying those universal principles, we experience pain, which cleanses us. And then the question becomes, will you get bitter or better? Will you go into victim or will you go into growth? And if you sit there getting bitter and ruminating on what went wrong, then what's gonna happen at that point is you're gonna go down further. You actually choose victimhood and you go further down. But if you choose to get better, if you say, where was that universal principle that I didn't see? And I want to be fair here that sometimes bad things happen and it wasn't because you didn't align with the universal principle, it was just bad luck. The world has a luck component in it. But for every one time someone thinks they had bad luck, in most cases they probably didn't align with the right behaviors, if we're being honest, because we live in a relatively safe world that most of the time will reward good decisions, luckily. But there's exceptions, okay? Give me a moment. So that being the case, what'll happen is if you choose to get better, you say, wait, I didn't align to that. And what happens is in presence work, we stop thinking and we allow high vibration energy to inhabit us and move through us. And then what happens is that as we're aligning to universal principles, we're able to bring in more power because we've aligned to those principles and we're in surrender. We're in surrender to our higher power, in surrender to universal law. Again, just speculating here. I can't prove this, but I really believe it, as you can probably tell. And it comes from a lot of life experience and things that really didn't make sense and really confused the heck out of me and then began to make sense within this context. So when your mind is still, you're in surrender, and now you're not having to use your physical body as much. There's energy moving through you. That's why we're gaining energy, because the more that we are up here, the more we're in surrender. Now, if you come up here and you're in resistance and you're trying to use force but not power, you can read a book called Power versus Force by David R. Hawkins. Don't agree with all of it, but great concepts. Love it. Gets really good for me around chapter 4. So, okay, so what you basically have there is you're aligning with that, and now you're moving from coping into thriving. Coping into thriving. And when you do that, your ability to think laterally explodes. Your ability to find solutions goes up. You're not socially pinging as much off your environment. You have more energy. And you're using an untapped potential that you didn't know you have. When you meet people like this, there's a different quality of energy emanating from them. They appear transcendent. People look up to them almost in a godlike fashion.
An example of this from popular culture would be Jimi Hendrix, the guitar player. Right, this guy couldn't even read music. He played his guitar upside down and backwards. Go and watch. Look on YouTube. Look at some classic clips of this guy playing. It's clearly happening through him. It's like this transcendent performance. When you witness this, you know you are objectively witnessing a superior performance, right? And again, there's various reasons why he might have been able to access that. Perhaps psychedelic, we don't know. But again, it's very obvious that it's just kind of like he's allowing it to happen through him.
This is one of our great passions, is elite level performance. Elite level. And one of the reasons I used to go watch Kobe Bryant live was because that was a chance to witness that. I love watching the Tom Brady's, LeBron James, Kobe's, people like that who have given everything. They've given everything to the game. And when you truly give everything to the game, magical moments are going to happen. And here's what I would really leave you with as far as how this works. What I believe is that when we move into a higher level energetic reality, we get tested. And the basic test, and again, this is speculative what I'm giving you here, okay? But the basic test that I understand it as, in my mind, is the following. So here's what I experience, okay? The way that I experience this is that you get a test. The basic law is this. You either choose the creator or the creation. Say that with me. You choose the creator or the creation. So imagine that you have like this really big crush on somebody who you'd love to date. And you keep thinking about them and thinking about them and thinking about them. You're making them God. You know, there's a certain money that you want to make or accomplishment that you want. You're making that God. And what happens is it actually pushes it away from you in many ways. Yeah. There's counterexamples to this. Sometimes you just want it so bad you get it. Don't get me wrong. But it's almost like you have a sailboat, and one is like the wind with the sail, the other is the oar. You can paddle your way there frantically. You can get there, but you're using force. The sail is like power. I believe that we have both. I believe that life, the cross, for example, is the intersection between depth and breadth. That is life, right there. That cross, the intersection right there. So if we're up here doing public speaking, our goal is to be in surrender, but we still have to use the physical body. We still have to use our minds to an extent. Think about the fact that I will barely say or ah. I can structure this talk without much thinking. The voice is booming out to the back of the room. I'm gaining energy from it. Pause and consider what you're seeing. Don't just take this in passively, what you're seeing from us at the front. Let it land on deeper levels. Know what you're looking at. When I'm watching Kobe, I'm not like, go Lakers, I bleed purple and gold. I'm not thinking that. Love the Lakers, but I'm not thinking that. What I'm thinking is I'm watching something transcendent. I'm looking at it at a completely different level. 1000%. Last thing I care about is bleeding purple and gold. I love seeing the transcendent performance. So what you're doing is you're learning essentially how to use your sail, but also you've got that rudder right there, right? You still have to move the rudder. I can't just sit here like in surrender. I'm in surrender now. I'm not thinking. But nothing's happening. It's kind of boring. I mean, it might be kind of funny to look at for a minute. You're like, is this his Eckhart Tolle shtick? What is he doing? I'll get my bell. But nothing's happening, right? I'm still using my body. My body will still have inflammation in it throughout after this event. I'll time it and pace myself. So I'm using my body, but I'm not coming up here trying to force it. Now, if I try to force it the way most of you do up at the front, what will happen is my voice will blow out, and I won't be able to pace myself to finish this event. So I've learned this from many, many years of seminaring, but also many, many years of going out and learning how to pace myself and learning how to tap into energy so I wouldn't get tired. I'd see other people that were miserable going out, learning social skills. They get miserable because they couldn't get that approval they want. They're like, I couldn't. They go out and they're in what's called in Eastern philosophy the realm of hungry ghosts. The realm of hungry ghosts is like this sub-realm where you got this big fat belly and a long mouth, and you can never fully fill it. You can never fully fill the belly. So people go out and they meet people who they're attracted to, they want to date, and they're socially pinging off them like crazy, wanting them, but ironically pushing it away. The key to receiving, to be good at receiving, is you have the intention so bad, you want it so bad, and then you just let it go. Like we go out, we want to crush it so bad, let it go. I come in here, I do this event, Jeff, myself, we want to crush it so bad, but let it go. Can you see that intersection that I'm talking about, even in the speaking style? I'm giving 1,000% energy, I'm giving no energy. I want it so bad, but do you sense that? Do you sense a need?
No.
I want it so bad, but I don't care.
Is this continuous? Like you're constantly wanting
Yeah.
it and then letting it go?
I want to do such a great job. It's coming up into 1 a.m. I want this so bad, but I'm just as happy to go eat a hamburger.
I wish.
You see? So that's that intersection point. What we like to do is we want to get you into thriving. Thriving. I look at people and I see their eyes looking dead. I see them looking contracted. I see them stuck in their head. I see attachment. I see need. I see making the physical object God. Not grounded, not attached to energy. And this is difficult because you know what? Say you're building a business. Honestly, it's pretty funny, right? When you're building a business, or let's say you're working on something you really care about. It's hard not to get pulled into it. Many of the people that I know that are the most grounded, they're not that motivated. They don't do a lot. And I look at how grounded they are. I'm like, wow, that's so beautiful how grounded they are. But if they were put under the pressure that Jeff or I were under, they would collapse. I've seen it. Some of these people, they're very grounded. They have a slight little bump at the road of their serving job or something, and they flip out. They get super negative. I'm like, wow, I really looked up to them spiritually. They're so grounded. Little thing throws them off. They're freaking out. I view it being grounded, being spiritual, I view it like there's some nuances that don't get talked about a lot. Want me to share some?
Yeah.
One of them is how grounded you are naturally, just when nothing's happening one way or the other. But another one is how grounded are you under pressure? I know a lot of people that are more grounded than I am just sitting there at a table. Truly, many people. But you put them under pressure and they're collapsing. Well, I'm saying probably about the same. Not a big difference. It's kind of shocking, actually, when you see it. Another one is how much low vibration energy are you carrying, contrasted with how much trauma energy or low vibration energy are you identified with. Interesting distinction. Let me explain. I know people that have very little trauma energy left. They're beaming, they're happy. But when it does come up, it totally takes them over. It's actually really funny. The mother of my kids is like this beaming angel. People will say about her all the time, they'll say, are you an angel? She will consistently get asked if she's an angel on a daily basis because she comes across so high vibration. So I want her to be the mom of my kids. But like once a month, something triggers her and she totally melts down. And it's like funny to watch. She's like, ah! And I'm like, and because she's identified, when it does get her, the odd time, she's identified. Me, I carry more trauma energy than she does. But I'm not really identified with it. I can know that it's there. I can hear the negative thoughts and go, oh, that's my brain playing a trick. I'm very, very good at knowing when my mind is playing a trick. So I'd say there's a lot of people more grounded than I am. There's a lot of people with less trauma energy than me. But what I have been able to be successful at while working hard is to stay relatively consistent one way or the other. And when those negative thoughts take over, I'm pretty good at going, you know, I remember the last time I thought this, and the next day I felt dumb when I acted on it. I remember when I used to get drunk in high school on occasion. I'd get super drunk and I'd think about acting the fool. And you know what question I ask myself while I'm drunk? Have I ever acted like this before? Well, if I never acted like this before sober in 17 years, probably I'm doing this because I'm drunk. Well, I do the same thing if I get in a negative attack. I'm thinking, remember the last time that you sent that email when you're angry, or you sent that text when you're angry, or you yelled at someone when you're angry? The next day you felt pretty dumb, huh? Do you feel angry now? Yeah. Maybe you should shut up until this passes and just say nothing. You know where this gets really tricky? 1 time in 10, when you flip out, it actually helps the situation. 1 time in 10, you flip out and it draws attention to the problem and it actually gets fixed. But 9 times out of 10, you think it's the 1 time out of 10 and you make it worse. And then that 1 time out of 10 it helps, makes you act up those times. So these are different areas that we go into, and what we learn is our trauma energy, our resistance, our attachment to the physical, our low-level ways of thinking, our poor quality of decisions. And what I love about human beings, I feel like we're in this purgatory realm where we're learning. It's a learning realm. I feel that we're in a very special place. Very, very special, very unique. I feel only someone with great courage would choose to come here to this realm. I truly feel that way. Because there's a lot good about it. Earth is very beautiful, but Earth can also be quite disgusting and messed up. And we choose to come here, right? So it's like a very high and low kind of point. I feel it takes great courage to be here. And for that reason, I commend any of you for being here, and I love you. I care for you and love you very deeply, even if you annoy the crap out of me, you know, and that you have horrible, horrible, horrible things about you that make me sick, but I still love you. And the reason why is because I know that you're in process, and I know that there's things about me or Jeff or anybody that would make you sick too. But we're here learning, trying to get better. We're at least trying, right? All that I ever ask of somebody is to try. That's truly, truly all that I ask. And I feel that when you have this down again, that thriving, that beaming, that energy level, that potential, that genius, you're unleashing genius, you're waking up. That is what I really live for. And that is what I really, really like sharing. So I wanted to wrap tonight on that note. Did you guys have fun today?
Yeah!
Thank you guys. Let that marinate overnight. Let that marinate.